The silence of deep space provided no comfort to Commander Dax Mercer as he stood at the viewport of the command center. His weathered face reflected against the backdrop of stars, lines etched deep from 2 years of sleepless vigilance. Beyond the reinforced transparasteel, the twisted gravity fields of the Persian expanse created a natural barrier, their shield, their prison, their home. "Status report," Mercer demanded, his voice carrying the weight of humanity's last fleet. Lieutenant Arden Gray approached with practiced efficiency, datapad in hand. "Perimeter sensors clear. Commander, deep patrol units report nominal activity along the Carson Belt. Shipyard production has increased 7% since last cycle." Mercer nodded, taking a long drink from his dented Durasteel mug, a relic from Earth, from before the exile, before the betrayal. "And the Valkyrie?" "Captain Vaughn reports all systems operational. Strike wings fully manned and ready for deployment." The command center hummed with quiet purpose. Nestled deep within the hollowed core of a rogue planet they had named Haven. 2 years since the Galactic Council had declared humanity a threat to interstellar stability. 2 years since the blockade had driven the remnants of mankind into the lawless Persian expanse, a maze of gravitational anomalies and rogue celestial bodies where Council patrols feared to venture. 2 years of building, planning, surviving. "The Council believes us extinct," Mercer said, placing his mug on the holographic display table. "Let them keep believing that, until we're ready." The tactical display illuminated his face in harsh blue light, revealing the scattered dots representing their hidden empire. Resource extraction teams on distant asteroids, stealth corvettes patrolling the edges of the expanse, the massive hidden shipyards converting stolen Council technology into weapons of retribution. Lieutenant Gray shifted uncomfortably. "Commander, Governor Holst has requested another meeting regarding resource allocation." "Civilians," Mercer muttered. "They still don't understand what we're facing." "They're scared," Gray replied, his voice dropping. 2 years hiding in a hollowed-out rock, living on recycled air and synthesized protein. They need hope, not just survival. Mercer turned from the viewport, his eyes hard. "Hope? We were the Council's trusted allies for 50 years. We fought their wars, traded our technology, bled for their causes, and they repaid us with exile." He gestured toward the tactical display. "Out there, Gray. Council warships still hunt for human signatures. Any ship with human life signs is authorized for immediate destruction. Tell me, where exactly do you find hope in that?" Before Gray could answer, the command center's alert system pulsed red. Communications Officer Reeves straightened at her station. "Commander, Deep Patrol Sigma-7 is reporting an anomaly near the Carson Belt," she announced, fingers dancing across her console. "Unregistered energy signature. They're investigating now." Mercer moved swiftly to the comm station. "Put them through!" The crackling voice of Patrol Leader Sanjin filled the command center. "Command, this is Sigma-7. We've intercepted what appears to be a Council probe. Stealth design, latest model. We've disabled its transmission capabilities, but it's already been scanning the area for at least 20 minutes. A cold knot formed in Mercer's stomach. "Any outgoing signals detected?" "Negative, Commander. But..." Sanjin hesitated. "Sir, this isn't a random patrol. The probe's trajectory and scan parameters indicate a targeted search. Someone pointed them toward the expanse." Gray exchanged a grim look with Mercer. "Informants. Or survivors from our last resource raid," Mercer concluded. "Bring the probe in. Full containment protocols. I want to know exactly what it was looking for, and what it found." "Acknowledged. Sigma-7 out." Mercer turned to his tactical officer. "Lieutenant Cruz, I want all Deep Patrol units on high alert. Double our sensor range, but maintain emissions control. If there's a probe, there might be a ship nearby. Find it." "Yes, Commander." Gray stepped closer, keeping his voice low. "If the Council has found us..." "They haven't," Mercer cut him off. "Not yet. But we need to prepare for the possibility. He turned to the communication station. Officer Reeves, inform Captain Vaughn to prepare the Valkyrie for potential engagement. And get me Admiral Caro and Chief Merrick in the strategy room, now. As the command center erupted into controlled urgency, Mercer stared once more at the swirling chaos of the Persian expanse beyond the viewport. For 2 years, they had hidden, built, and waited. Perhaps the waiting was over. The probe arrived 6 hours later, escorted by Sigma-7's sleek patrol craft. In the sterile confines of Examination Bay 3, Chief Engineer Merrick circled the spherical council device, his weathered hands moving carefully over its polished surface. "Latest model," he confirmed, stroking his gray beard. "They've upgraded the quantum sensor array. This thing could detect a human biosignature through 3 meters of lead shielding." Admiral Caro, a tall woman with close-cropped silver hair and the bearing of someone who had commanded warships for decades, frowned deeply. "How long before they realize their probe is missing?" "Standard protocol would trigger an alert after 12 hours of non-communication," Gray answered. "We have perhaps 6 hours left." Merrick connected a series of bypass nodes to the probe's access ports. "I can retrieve its scan data, maybe determine exactly what it found. But I need time." "You have 2 hours," Mercer said. "Admiral Caro, coordinate with Captain Vaughn. I want the Valkyrie and 2 stealth corvettes ready to deploy on my command." Caro's eyes narrowed. "You're planning an offensive action?" "If necessary," Mercer confirmed. "If this probe is part of a larger reconnaissance mission, we need to neutralize the threat before they can report back to the Council." "Commander," Gray interjected, "with respect, a direct engagement would reveal our existence. Everything we've built here will mean nothing if the Council discovers Haven," Mercer finished. "We strike first, we strike hard, and we leave no survivors. That's how we've survived this long." The tension in the room was palpable as Merrick worked on the probe. After an hour of delicate electronic surgery, he straightened with a grim expression. "Commander, I've accessed the probe's mission parameters and scan data. It's worse than we thought." He projected a holographic display from his datapad. "This isn't an isolated scout. It's the vanguard for a full recon battle group. The CSS Imminence, a Justicar-class carrier with escort vessels." "Location," Mercer demanded. "Based on the probe's trajectory and mission parameters, the battle group is holding position just outside the Farron Nebula, approximately 18 hours from our position at Standard Drive." Admiral Caro studied the holographic display. "A Justicar carrier has a crew complement of over 2,000, with 4 squadrons of strike craft. Taking it head-on would be suicide." "We don't need to destroy it," Mercer said, his mind racing through tactical scenarios. "We just need to blind it. Admiral, prepare a strike plan. Target their communications array, sensor grid, and propulsion systems. I want that ship crippled and deaf, unable to report what it's found or return to Council space." "And the escort vessels?" Gray asked. "Same treatment if possible. If not, destruction is authorized. No survivors, no witnesses." Admiral Caro nodded grimly. "I'll coordinate with Captain Vaughn. The Valkyrie's stealth system should get us close enough for a surprise assault." "Good. You have 6 hours to prepare." Mercer turned to leave, but Gray followed him into the corridor. "Commander," he said, once they were alone, "I understand the tactical necessity, but this will be our first direct attack on Council forces. There's no going back from this." Mercer stopped, his shoulders tense. "There was no going back the moment they declared us extinct. Lieutenant, they made their choice 2 years ago. Now we make ours." Gray hesitated, then asked the question that hung between them. "And after we cripple the Imminence, what then?" Mercer's eyes reflected a cold determination that sent a chill down Gray's spine. "Then we accelerate our plans. The Council believes they excised humanity from the galaxy, like a tumor. It's time to show them that we're the surgery they should fear." 16 hours later. The Valkyrie slipped silently through the twisted gravitational fields of the Persian expanse, its advanced stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. Behind it followed two modified corvettes, the Spectre and the Wraith, their hulls coated with light-absorbing material stolen from Council shipyards. On the Valkyrie's bridge, Captain Vaughn stood with perfect military posture, her scarred face illuminated by the tactical displays. Once a decorated Council fleet officer, she had been aboard the EAS Vigilant when the Exiled decree came down. She had watched as Council ships opened fire on unarmed human transports, had witnessed the slaughter of civilians whose only crime was their genetic makeup. She had chosen sides that day, turning her ship against her former comrades and saving 3 human vessels before fleeing into the uncharted edges of the galaxy. Now, she commanded humanity's most advanced warship, a vessel built from stolen plans and modified Council technology. Approaching sensor range of the target, reported her tactical officer. CSS imminence confirmed at coordinates Delta 9. 2 escort frigates in standard protection formation. Vaughn nodded. Maintain stealth approach. Weapon systems on standby. Prepare targeting solutions for all 3 vessels. Priority on the Imminence's communications array and engine core. Captain, came Admiral Caro's voice from the command chair behind her. Commander Mercer is hailing us from Haven. Put him through. Mercer's face appeared on the main view screen, his expression grim. Status report, Captain. Target acquired. Approach vectors plotted. We'll be in optimal firing position in 27 minutes. Any sign they've detected you? Negative, Commander. Their patrol patterns indicate standard reconnaissance protocol. They suspect nothing. Mercer nodded. Good. Remember, this is a surgical strike. Cripple their ability to communicate and return to Council space. Once the mission is complete, return immediately to Haven through the designated escape corridors. Understood, Commander. And Captain, Mercer added, his voice dropping slightly. Make them remember. Vaughn's scarred face twisted into something resembling a smile. With pleasure, Commander. Valkyrie out. As the transmission ended, Admiral Caro approached the command station. 20 years serving the Council, she murmured. I never thought I'd be orchestrating an attack against them. They made their choice, Vaughn replied, echoing Mercer's earlier words. When they declared us enemies of galactic peace, they transformed every human survivor into a weapon aimed at their heart. The bridge fell silent as the strike force continued its approach, the distant silhouette of the CSS Imminence growing larger on their view screens. The massive carrier represented the pinnacle of Council military technology, and soon it would become the first casualty in humanity's silent war of vengeance. Optimal firing position in 60 seconds, announced the tactical officer. Vaughn straightened her uniform. All hands to battle stations. Disengage stealth systems on my mark. Weapons. Prepare to fire primary disruptors on designated targets. The tension on the bridge was palpable as the seconds counted down. Every person present understood the significance of what they were about to do. This wasn't just an attack. It was a declaration that humanity would not fade quietly into extinction. 3, 2, 1. Mark! The Valkyrie's stealth field collapsed as its weapon systems surged to life. Before the Council ships could react, concentrated energy beams lanced out, striking the Imminence's communications array with devastating precision. Secondary explosions bloomed across the carrier's hull as power conduits overloaded. Direct hit on primary target, reported the tactical officer. Their communications are down, moving to secondary targets. The element of surprise gave the human vessels a crucial advantage. As the Valkyrie targeted the Imminence's propulsion systems, the Spectre and Wraith engaged the escort frigates, their modified weapons tearing through Council shields with unexpected effectiveness. Captain, called out the sensor officer. The Imminence is launching strike craft. Vaughn remained calm. As expected, defensive grid to maximum. Continue attack on the primary target. The space around the human vessels erupted with weapons fire as Council fighters scrambled to respond to the sudden assault. The Valkyrie shuddered under the impact of multiple hits, but its reinforced hull, designed to withstand the gravitational stresses of the Persian expanse, held firm. "Engine core hit confirmed," reported the weapons officer. "The Imminence is losing power. Their shields are down." Vaughn nodded in satisfaction. "Target their life support systems. I want that ship dead in space." On the main view screen, one of the escort frigates exploded in a brilliant flash as the Wraith landed a critical hit on its reactor core. The second frigate was attempting to retreat, its hull scarred with multiple impact points. "The remaining frigate is preparing to jump," warned the tactical officer. "Not today," Vaughn growled. "Spectre, cut off their escape route. Valkyrie, transferring targeting solution to you now." With practiced precision, the human vessels coordinated their attack. The Spectre positioned itself to block the frigate's trajectory, while the Valkyrie unleashed a barrage of disruptor fire that shredded the Council vessel's engines. Within 20 minutes of the initial assault, it was over. The CSS Imminence floated dead in space, its massive hull darkened save for emergency lighting. Both escort frigates had been neutralized, one destroyed outright, the other disabled beyond repair. Council strike craft that had survived the engagement were left stranded, their carrier unable to recover them. "Status report," Vaughn demanded, even as damage control teams worked to repair the Valkyrie's damaged sections. "Mission successful, Captain," reported her first officer. "The Imminence's communications, propulsion, and primary systems are offline. Their emergency beacon has been disabled. Escape pods have been neutralized. They're completely isolated." Vaughn allowed herself a moment of grim satisfaction before turning to Admiral Caro. "Your orders, Admiral." Caro studied the tactical display, where the crippled Council vessels drifted helplessly. "Send the message." Vaughn nodded to her communications officer, who transmitted a pre-recorded video to the Imminence's emergency channels, the only communication method still available to the stricken vessel. On the Council ship, Captain Linus Vorn stared in disbelief as his bridge filled with smoke and damage reports flooded in from all decks. The attack had come without warning, with a precision that spoke of intimate knowledge of Council ship designs. "Status of the emergency beacon?" he demanded. "Destroyed, sir," his communications officer replied. "We're cut off completely." "The attackers?" "Unknown vessels, sir. They've ceased fire but remain in attack position." As if in response to his question, the main view screen flickered to life, revealing the face of a human woman. Her features were scarred, her expression coldly triumphant. "Attention CSS Imminence," she began. "I am Captain Vaughn of the HWS Valkyrie. 2 years ago, your council declared humanity extinct. You should have made certain of that." Captain Vorn's blood ran cold. Humans. Impossible. The blockade had been absolute, the exile complete. "You drift now at the edge of what you call the Persian expanse," Vaughn continued. "Your ship is crippled. Your escorts neutralized. You have no means to call for help or return to Council space." She leaned closer to the camera, her scarred face filling the screen. "This is not an act of war. This is a reminder. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. Tell your council, if you survive long enough to reach them, we are coming." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge of the Imminence in stunned silence. Captain Vorn gripped the arms of his command chair, his mind racing through the implications. Humans, alive and armed with technology that could cripple a Justicar-class carrier. The Council would need to know immediately. But as he surveyed his broken ship and the void of space beyond, he realized that immediately might be years away, if they survived at all. On the Valkyrie, Vaughn watched as the strike force disengaged, their engines flaring as they accelerated away from the crippled Council vessels. "Set course for Haven," she ordered. "Maximum speed." As the stars streaked past the viewports, Vaughn allowed herself a small smile. The Council had declared humanity a disease to be eradicated from the galaxy. Now, they would learn that some diseases adapt, evolve, and return stronger than before. The strike force's return to Haven was met with a mixture of jubilation and trepidation. Word of the successful attack spread quickly through the hidden colony, inspiring hope in many who had resigned themselves to a life of perpetual hiding. But for others, particularly among the civilian leadership, the direct confrontation with Council forces represented a dangerous escalation. In the central chamber of Haven's administrative section, the atmosphere was tense as Commander Mercer faced the colony's governing council. Governor Holst, a thin man with nervous eyes, who had once been a diplomat in humanity's golden age, spoke for many when he rose from his seat. "You've provoked the very entity we've spent 2 years hiding from," he accused, his voice shaking with barely controlled anger. "The Council will redouble their efforts to find us now. You've put every human life in this colony at risk." Murmurs of agreement rose from several Council members. Mercer stood impassive, hands clasped behind his back as he waited for the outcry to subside. "Are we finished?" he asked when the chamber quieted. "Because while you've been debating the ethics of our survival, I've been ensuring it." He activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber, showing tactical projections and sensor data. The CSS Imminence was not on a random patrol. Their scan patterns and trajectory were specifically designed to search for human biosignatures. Someone directed them to the Persian Expanse. This revelation sent a ripple of unease through the Council. Governor Holst paled visibly. "You're suggesting infiltration? Here in Haven?" "I'm stating facts," Mercer replied coldly. "The Council believed us extinct. Something changed their minds. Whether it was a survivor captured during our last resource raid, or a traitor in our midst, the result is the same. They know we're out here. The only question was whether they would find us before we were ready." Captain Varric, a stern-faced former merchant captain, who represented the civilian fleet, leaned forward. "And your solution was to attack a Council carrier? To announce our presence to the very people hunting us?" "My solution," Mercer emphasized, "was to blind the enemy's eyes while demonstrating that we are not helpless prey to be hunted at their leisure." He gestured to Admiral Caro, who stepped forward to continue the briefing. "The CSS Imminence has been completely neutralized," she explained. "Their communications, propulsion, and navigation systems are destroyed beyond repair. Even their emergency beacons have been disabled. The crew may eventually cobble together enough functioning equipment to limp back to Council space, but that will take months, if not years." "And in that time," Varric pressed. Mercer's expression hardened. "In that time, we accelerate our plans. We double shipyard production. We strengthen our defenses. And we prepare for the inevitable confrontation with the Council." Governor Holst shook his head in dismay. "This is madness. We're talking about the Galactic Council, dozens of species, thousands of worlds, the most powerful political and military force in known space. We can't hope to challenge them directly." "I'm not proposing open warfare," Mercer clarified. "Not yet. But neither will I condemn humanity to cower in the shadows until the Council finishes what they started 2 years ago." Lieutenant Gray, who had been observing silently from the side of the chamber, stepped forward. "Commander, perhaps we should consider opening diplomatic channels. Many Council members oppose the Exiled decree. If we could reach out to potential allies." "Allies?" Mercer's laugh was bitter. "Where were these allies when Council ships fired on civilian transports? When human colonies were blockaded and starved into submission?" He shook his head. "No, Lieutenant. The time for diplomacy ended when they declared us a threat to galactic stability." The chamber fell silent as the weight of Mercer's words settled over the assembly. Finally, Chief Merrick, who had been analyzing data from the Imminence encounter, cleared his throat. "There's something else," he said, projecting a new set of readings onto the holodisplay. During the attack, the Valkyrie's sensors detected unusual energy signatures from within the Farron Nebula. Not Council technology. Something older. Mercer frowned. Explain. The readings match partial patterns we've observed in ancient ruins throughout the expanse. I believe there may be a significant archaeological site within the nebula, possibly a station or outpost predating Council civilization. This revelation shifted the mood in the chamber. Despite their precarious situation, the discovery of ancient technology had always been a priority for Haven's leadership. Such finds had provided critical advancements that allowed their hidden colony to survive. If there's functional technology there, Admiral Caro noted, it could provide advantages the Council doesn't possess. Mercer nodded, seeing an opportunity to redirect the Council's focus. I propose sending an exploration team to investigate this signature. Chief Merrick will lead, with security provided by a detachment from the Valkyrie. Governor Holst seemed about to object, but Captain Varric raised a hand. I support this mission. Ancient tech has kept us alive this long. Perhaps it will give us the edge we need now. The vote was not unanimous, but with Varric's support, the expedition was approved. As the council meeting adjourned, Mercer turned to find Lieutenant Gray, waiting for him in the corridor outside. That was well played, Gray observed quietly. Give them a mystery to focus on instead of their fear. Mercer's expression remained neutral. The energy signature is real, Lieutenant, and potentially valuable. I don't doubt it, but you're using it to distract the Council from questioning your larger strategy. Gray studied his commander's face. What aren't you telling them? For a moment, Mercer considered dismissing the question, but Gray had proven his loyalty countless times over the past 2 years. If anyone deserved the truth, it was him. Come with me, he said instead, leading Gray through the winding corridors of Haven to his private quarters. Once inside, Mercer activated a security field that would prevent any listening devices from functioning. From a hidden compartment in his desk, he retrieved a data crystal and inserted it into a specialized reader. What I'm about to show you doesn't leave this room, he warned. Not even Admiral Caro or Chief Merrick knows the full extent of our operations. The holographic display flickered to life, showing a complex network of informants, saboteurs, and sleeper agents scattered throughout Council space. Gray's eyes widened as he absorbed the implications. You've had people in place all this time? Mercer nodded. Not everyone agreed with the Exiled decree. Some helped us escape. Others chose to stay behind, to become our eyes and ears within the Council. And the attack on the Imminence? A calculated risk, Mercer admitted. But necessary. Our agents report increasing pressure from hardliners within the Council to complete what they see as an unfinished extermination. The Imminence was just the first of many planned expeditions to hunt down any human survivors. Gray processed this information, his expression troubled. So we struck first. We struck first, Mercer confirmed. And now we accelerate the next phase. While Merrick's team investigates the ancient station, we'll be deploying specialized teams to key Council worlds. For what purpose? Mercer's eyes gleamed with cold determination. To sow discord, Lieutenant. To plant evidence that the Exiled decree was based on falsified data. To turn the Council against itself, while we grow stronger in the shadows. Gray stared at the holographic display, the enormity of Mercer's plan becoming clear. You're not just fighting for survival. You're orchestrating the Council's collapse from within. I'm creating leverage, Mercer corrected. When the time comes for humanity to emerge from hiding, we'll need more than military strength. We'll need the Council fractured and desperate enough to negotiate with us as equals. As Gray studied the intricate web of operations Mercer had set in motion, he felt a mixture of admiration and unease. The commander had transformed their exile into an opportunity, their weakness into strength. But at what cost to the soul of the humanity they were fighting to preserve? And if the Council discovers our agents before they can complete their missions? He asked. Mercer's expression hardened. Then we accelerate our timetable. One way or another, Lieutenant. The era of humanity cowering in the shadows ends now. 3 days later, Chief Merrick led a small expedition into the Farron Nebula aboard the exploration vessel, Pioneer. The swirling gases of the nebula interfered with sensors and communications, forcing them to navigate by visual reference and short-range scanners. Captain Vaughn had insisted on accompanying the mission, bringing a squad of her best security officers from the Valkyrie. Energy signature is intensifying, reported Science Officer Callan, a young woman whose brilliant mind had earned her a place on the expedition despite her limited experience. Whatever we're looking for, we're getting closer. Merrick nodded, his weathered hands adjusting the Pioneer's course through the nebula's treacherous currents. Maintain sensor sweep. The nebula's composition could be masking additional hazards. Vaughn stood behind the command chairs, her scarred face illuminated by the eerie glow of the nebula through the viewports. How much longer until we reach the source? At current speed, approximately 20 minutes, Callan replied, assuming the signature doesn't shift again. The Pioneer continued its cautious approach, the dense gases of the nebula parting around its hull like glowing mist. The crew worked in tense silence, each aware of the mission's importance to Haven's future. Suddenly, Callan straightened in her seat. Chief, I'm detecting a massive structure directly ahead. Dimensions. Impossible to determine precisely, but it's at least 5 kilometers in length. On screen, Merrick ordered. The view screen flickered, struggling to penetrate the nebula's interference. Slowly, an enormous silhouette took shape, a structure unlike anything in Council or human design. Its architecture was both organic and geometric, with curved spines extending from a central hub in patterns that seemed to defy conventional engineering. Is it alive? Whispered one of the crew members. Merrick shook his head in wonder. Not alive, but perhaps not entirely inanimate either. This matches descriptions of precursor architecture, the civilization theorized to predate even the Council's oldest member species. Vaughn stepped closer to the view screen, her expression guarded. Can we dock with it? Callan analyzed the sensor readings. I'm detecting what might be access points along the central hub. The structure appears to be maintaining an internal atmosphere, suggesting at least partial system functionality. Take us in, Merrick decided. But approach with caution. If this station has automated defenses, we don't want to trigger them. The Pioneer edged closer to the ancient structure, its external lights illuminating sections of the mysterious station. The surface appeared to be made of a material resembling both metal and crystal, with intricate patterns etched into its surface that seemed to shift and flow as the light played across them. I'm detecting an energy surge, Callan warned suddenly. Something's activating. Before they could react, a beam of pale blue light extended from the station, enveloping the Pioneer in a gentle glow. The ship's systems fluctuated momentarily, then stabilized. Status report, Vaughn demanded, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. All systems operational, reported the pilot. The beam appears to be scanning us? Merrick studied the readings on his console. Not just scanning. I think it's communicating? The patterns in the energy field match known linguistic structures. As if in response to his observation, the ship's main computer activated without command, its display filling with rapidly scrolling symbols, unlike any human or Council language. It's accessing our database, Callan realized, searching for linguistic references to establish communication. The scrolling symbols suddenly stopped, replaced by crude but recognizable text in an ancient human language. Visitors identified, access granted. Merrick and Vaughn exchanged surprised glances. It recognizes humans? Vaughn asked. Or at least recognizes our genetic pattern as authorized users, Merrick theorized. This could be why the Council never discovered this station. Their biology may not trigger the same recognition protocols. The blue beam retracted, and a new message appeared. Docking procedure initiated. Prepare for atmospheric synchronization. The Pioneer shuddered slightly, as an unseen force guided it toward one of the access points on the station's central hub. With surprising gentleness, the ship was drawn into a massive docking bay that illuminated as they entered, revealing a cavernous space designed to accommodate vessels far larger than their small exploration craft. Atmospheric analysis shows breathable air, Callan reported with surprise. Temperature and pressure within human comfortable ranges. Almost as if it was expecting us, Vaughn murmured, her suspicion evident. Or designed with biology similar to ours in mind, Merrick countered. The precursors have always been a mystery. Perhaps this station holds answers about their connection to humanity. Once the Pioneer had completed its docking sequence, Merrick assembled an exploration team consisting of himself, Callan, Vaughn, and 4 security officers from the Valkyrie, equipped with portable scanners, weapons, and emergency breathing apparatus. They cycled through the airlock and stepped onto the ancient station. The interior was even more remarkable than the exterior. Corridors seemed to shift and realign as they walked, guiding them deeper into the structure. Surfaces that appeared solid would become transparent as they approached, revealing glimpses of vast machinery or star-filled voids beyond. It's responding to our presence, Callan observed, recording everything with her scanner. The architecture itself is interactive. They followed the path the station seemed to be creating for them, eventually arriving at a circular chamber, dominated by a holographic display, unlike anything in Council technology. As they entered, the display activated, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, but with configurations of stars and nebulae that didn't match current astronomical charts. This shows the galaxy as it was approximately 50,000 years ago, Merrick realized, comparing the display to data in his handheld computer. During the theorized height of precursor civilization, the map zoomed in, highlighting a network of points that spanned the galaxy, thousands of stations similar to the one they now stood in, connected by lines that seemed to represent travel routes or communication networks. An empire, Vaughn breathed, spanning the entire galaxy. Callan moved closer to the display, her scanner detecting unusual energy patterns. The stations aren't just outposts. I'm not sure how to describe it. Anchors, maybe? They seem to be stabilizing something. As if responding to her observation, the holographic display shifted again, revealing a terrifying vision. Between the points of light representing the stations, darkness spread, not the natural void of space, but something that seemed to consume light, matter, and even the fabric of reality itself. "The breach," whispered one of the security officers, his voice filled with superstitious dread. Merrick shot him a sharp look. "The breach is just an old spacer's tale, a myth to frighten children." "Perhaps not entirely," Callan said, studying her readings. "These energy patterns suggest the precursors were containing or controlling some kind of dimensional anomaly. The network of stations created a barrier against something." The holographic display shifted once more, showing the network breaking down. Stations winked out one by one, the darkness between them growing, spreading. The final image showed only a handful of stations still active, barely holding back the encroaching void. "They lost," Vaughn concluded grimly. "Whatever war they were fighting, they lost." A new series of symbols appeared beneath the galactic display, gradually resolving into recognizable text. "Warning. Containment network compromised. Breach expansion detected. Estimated time to total containment failure unknown." Merrick's blood ran cold. "It's not a historical record. It's a current status report." Callan nodded, her face pale. "If I'm interpreting these readings correctly, This station is one of the few remaining functional nodes in the containment network. It's been holding back, whatever this is, for thousands of years. And it's failing, Vaughn concluded, her tactical mind immediately grasping the implications. That's why it granted us access. It needs help. Before anyone could respond, the chamber shuddered violently. The holographic display flickered, then stabilized to show a new image, a map of the current galaxy, with a pulsing point of darkness at the edge of what they recognized as council space. "Something's coming through," Callan whispered, her scanner displaying readings that made no scientific sense. "The breach is widening." The station's internal systems began to pulse with urgency, flooding the chamber with rapidly scrolling text and schematics. Merrick worked feverishly to capture and translate as much as possible with his equipment. "We need to get this data back to Haven," he said, his fingers flying across his datapad. "The station is providing technical specifications, weapons, shields, propulsion systems beyond anything the Council possesses." "To fight this breach?" Vaughn asked, gesturing to the ominous darkness spreading across the holographic galaxy. "I believe so," Merrick confirmed. "The precursors built these stations as a defense network. This one is sharing its knowledge with us because we're genetically compatible users. It's recruiting us to continue the fight." Another violent tremor shook the chamber, stronger than before. Warning symbols flashed across the holographic display. "We need to leave," Vaughn decided, her military instincts taking over. "Now, get everything you can, Chief, but we're evacuating in 5 minutes." As the exploration team hurried back toward the Pioneer, the station around them seemed to be awakening fully. Systems that had lain dormant for millennia activated, lights flickering to life along corridors that had been dark when they passed through earlier. "It's diverting power," Callan observed, checking her scanner as they ran, strengthening its containment fields. They reached the Pioneer just as another, more violent tremor rocked the station. As they rushed through the docking procedures, the ship's sensors detected massive energy fluctuations throughout the structure. "The station is initiating some kind of emergency protocol," Callan reported as they prepared for departure. "Energy levels are off the charts." The Pioneer disengaged from the docking bay, backing away from the ancient structure just as a blinding light erupted from its central hub. The nebula around them churned with disturbed gases and energy discharges. "Get us out of here," Vaughn ordered the pilot, who needed no encouragement as he navigated the ship away from the increasingly volatile station. As they retreated to a safe distance, the crew watched in awe as the precursor station transformed. Its spines extended further, aligning into a complex geometric pattern. Energy arced between them, forming a barrier that pulsed with power. "It's reinforcing the containment field," Merrick realized, studying the data they had managed to download. "But I don't think it can hold indefinitely. According to these readings, the breach is growing stronger." Vaughn's expression was grim as she turned from the view screen. "Set course for Haven. Maximum speed. Commander Mercer needs to see this immediately." As the Pioneer accelerated away from the nebula, the ancient station continued its lonely vigil against an enemy that had already destroyed an empire spanning the galaxy. And somewhere beyond the thin barrier of its containment field, something ancient and hungry stirred, sensing new life in a galaxy it had nearly consumed once before. In the strategy room of Haven, Commander Mercer stared at the holographic projections with growing unease. Chief Merrick's expedition had returned with data far more disturbing than anyone had anticipated. The ancient station's warnings about the breach had initially been met with skepticism, spacers' tales, and superstition. Most had assumed, but the technical specifications downloaded from the precursor database told a different story. The station had been part of a vast network designed to contain a dimensional anomaly, a tear in the fabric of reality that allowed something to enter our universe, something that consumed energy, matter, and even consciousness itself. Could this be some kind of automated warning system? Admiral Caro asked, studying the projection of the breach's location. A relic of whatever destroyed the precursor civilization? Merrick shook his head. The data is updating in real time. The station remains functional, actively monitoring the breach, and according to its sensors, the containment field is weakening. Mercer circled the holographic display, his mind racing through possibilities and implications. If this is real, if there's truly some kind of interdimensional threat at the edge of Council space, then we need to consider our options carefully. Options, Vaughn scoffed. Commander, with respect, this is beyond us, beyond even the Council. The precursors had technology thousands of years more advanced than ours, and they still lost to this thing. Not entirely lost, Mercer corrected. They managed to contain it, to build a network that has held for millennia. And now that network has recognized humans as compatible users. He turned to Merrick. Could we replicate any of this technology, the weapons or shields? The chief engineer stroked his beard thoughtfully. Some of it, perhaps. The principles are beyond our current understanding, but the schematics are detailed. With time and resources. Time may be something we don't have, Lieutenant Gray interjected, pointing to a section of the data display. According to these readings, the breach has accelerated its expansion in the past month. If this continues, it will break through the containment field within weeks. The implications hung heavy in the air. Whatever lay beyond the breach would emerge into the galaxy, directly into Council space. So we warn them, Gray suggested. Whatever happened 2 years ago, whatever grievances we hold, this threat eclipses everything. Mercer's expression hardened. And how do you propose we do that, Lieutenant? Send a message to the Council saying, excuse us. We know you've been trying to exterminate us, but there's an ancient horror about to devour your worlds. Better than doing nothing, Gray argued. Millions of lives are at stake, billions, potentially. Whatever the Council did to us, we can't just stand by and watch. A tense silence fell over the strategy room. Mercer studied the holographic representation of the breach, a pulsing darkness that seemed to consume the light around it, even in simulation. We don't stand by, he finally said. But neither do we approach the Council as supplicants. He straightened. Decision made. Admiral Caro, I want the Valkyrie prepared for immediate deployment. Chief Merrick, assemble your best engineers and begin adaptation of the precursor shield technology. You're planning to confront the breach directly? Vaughn asked, her scarred face reflecting the holographic glow. No, Mercer replied. I'm planning to force the Council to confront it, with us at their side. He activated a different section of the holographic display, showing a detailed map of Athos Prime, the central world of Council governance. While we adapt the precursor technology, we'll deploy specialized teams to the heart of Council space. An attack? Gray asked, alarmed. Information warfare, Mercer corrected. Our agents will infiltrate the central data core on Athos Prime and broadcast evidence of the breach across all Council networks simultaneously. They won't be able to suppress or deny it. And when panic spreads, when their own people demand action, we offer our help, Admiral Caro finished, understanding dawning. With technology the Council doesn't possess. Precisely. Mercer's eyes gleamed with determined purpose. 2 years ago, they declared us a threat to galactic stability. Now, we show them what a real threat looks like, and position ourselves as the only ones who can help them fight it. The plan was audacious, dangerous, and might well fail, but it offered a path forward that neither abandoned the galaxy to an ancient horror nor surrendered humanity's newfound strength. Over the next weeks, Haven became a center of feverish activity as Merrick's engineering teams worked to adapt precursor technology to human vessels, while Mercer's covert operatives prepared for the most daring infiltration in human history. Meanwhile, The breach continued to grow, pulsing with hungry anticipation at the edge of council space. A darkness older than civilization, patient and inexorable in its advance. On Athos Prime, the gleaming central world of council governance, Councillor Tashin of the Voss hegemony strode through the corridors of the administrative spire with practiced dignity. As head of the council's security directorate, he had overseen the implementation of the human exile decree 2 years earlier, a decision he considered necessary for galactic stability. Humans had been unpredictable, aggressive, and technologically innovative at a pace that threatened the careful balance of power among council species. Their exile had been regrettable but essential, or so he had believed. Now, as he entered the secure briefing chamber, his certainty was being tested. Arrayed around the circular table were representatives from the council's military and intelligence divisions, their expressions grim. At the center of the table, a holographic display showed the CSS Imminence, or what remained of it. The carrier was found drifting at the edge of the Persian expanse, reported Admiral Krell, a reptilian Sauran whose scales had dulled with age and stress. Life support was functioning at minimal levels. 217 survivors, out of a crew of over 2,000. Tashin settled into his seat, his 4-fingered hands folded before him. And their report? Consistent with the distress message we received, they were attacked by human vessels, advanced ships employing technology that shouldn't exist, given the resources available to the exiles. Krell's vertical pupils narrowed. The attack was precise, coordinated, and executed with intimate knowledge of council ship design. Murmurs spread around the table. Councillor Tashin silenced them with a raised hand. Are we certain these were humans? Not mercenaries or pirates using the human threat as cover? The Imminence's captain was explicit, Krell confirmed. The attacking vessels identified themselves as human and referenced the exile decree specifically. Their message was clear. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. Tashin absorbed this with outward calm, though his inner hearts beat faster with concern. The exile decree had been controversial, even within the council. Many had argued for integration and monitoring rather than expulsion. If humans had not only survived but thrived in exile, developing military capabilities that could challenge council forces, this changes our strategic position, he acknowledged. We must locate their base of operations and neutralize this threat before it grows. That may be difficult, interjected Director Voss of Intelligence, an ethereal being whose translucent form shimmered with neural activity. The Persian expanse is notoriously difficult to navigate. Our initial sweep after the exile confirmed no significant human presence, but evidently we were deceived. Then, we'll conduct a more thorough search, Tashin decided. Dispatch a full battle group to the expanse. If humans have established a colony there, we will find it. As the council representatives discussed deployment strategies, none noticed the maintenance worker quietly servicing a ventilation panel near the chamber's ceiling. Nor did they detect the subtle device she placed within the air circulation system, a data infiltrator designed by Chief Merrick, incorporating precursor technology that rendered it invisible to council security scans. The worker, a human agent named Liana, who had spent 2 years embedded in Athos Prime's maintenance core, completed her task and moved on to her next assignment. Similar devices were being placed throughout the administrative spire by a dozen operatives working in carefully coordinated silence. When they activated, the Council's most secure networks would be compromised simultaneously, and the data they would broadcast could not be contained or denied. Humanity's counterattack had begun. 3 days later, as Councillor Tashin prepared to address the full Galactic Council regarding the human threat, every communication system on Athos Prime activated simultaneously. View screens in private residences, public spaces, government offices, and military installations all displayed the same image. a pulsing darkness at the edge of council space, consuming stars and worlds in its path. Accompanying the image was data, technical readings, historical records, and predictive models showing the breach's expansion. The transmission concluded with a simple message in all major council languages. The breach is real. The danger is imminent. Your leaders have known and done nothing. Panic spread across Athos Prime, and from there to every council world. Security forces scrambled to contain the transmission, but the infiltration was too complete, too sophisticated. By the time they managed to sever the compromised networks, the damage was done. Billions had seen the warning, and the question on every mind was the same. Was it true? In the council chamber, chaos reigned. Representatives demanded explanations, assurances, action. Councillor Toshin fought to maintain order, but the carefully constructed facade of control was crumbling. "Is it real?" demanded the Tyrillian representative, her crystalline form vibrating with alarm. "Is there truly some kind of dimensional anomaly threatening council space?" Before Toshin could formulate a response, the chamber's main view screen activated once more, but not with the breach imagery. Instead, it showed the face of Commander Dax Mercer, his expression resolute. "Counselors of the Galactic Alliance," he began, his voice echoing through the stunned chamber. 2 years ago, you declared humanity extinct. Today, we offer you salvation." Toshin rose from his seat, fury overtaking diplomacy. "Secure that transmission! This is a human deception, a desperate attempt to save your worlds from a threat you've ignored," Mercer interrupted. "The breach is real. Councillor Toshin, your own scientists detected it months ago, but you dismissed their warnings as you dismissed humanity, as an inconvenience to your political agenda." The council chamber fell silent as Mercer continued. "The anomaly your people have detected is a dimensional tear, a breach between our reality and something else. Something that consumes energy, matter, consciousness itself. The species you call the precursors fought it millennia ago and managed to contain it. But that containment is failing." "Spacer's tales," Toshin scoffed, though his confidence was visibly shaken. "Ancient superstitions with no scientific basis." "Then explain the readings your own research vessels have recorded," Mercer challenged. "Explain the disappearance of outposts along the rim of council space. Explain why the precursor station in the Farron Nebula activated after 50,000 years of dormancy." This revelation sent a ripple of shocked murmurs through the council chamber. The precursors were legend, their technology sought after by every species in the galaxy. The mention of an active precursor station was impossible to ignore. "Even if what you say is true," Toshin managed, struggling to regain control of the situation, "why would humans, whom we exiled, offer assistance?" Mercer's expression hardened. "Because, unlike you, Counselor, we understand that some threats transcend politics. The breach doesn't care about species or territories or ancient grudges. It will consume everything, humans and Council alike, unless it's stopped." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "We have adapted precursor technology, shields and weapons designed specifically to combat the breach. We offer this technology to the Council, along with our expertise and military support." "In exchange for what?" asked the Tyrillian representative, more practical than Toshin in the face of crisis. "In exchange for recognition," Mercer replied simply. "Recognition of humanity's right to exist, to govern ourselves, to participate in galactic affairs as equals, not as subjects or exiles. We don't seek revenge for the past. We seek partnership for the future." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some representatives recognized the necessity of accepting human help. Others feared a trap. And still others saw an opportunity to correct what they had viewed as a grave injustice 2 years earlier. As the arguments raged, external events forced the council's hand. Reports flooded in from the rim worlds. Inexplicable energy fluctuations, communications disruptions, and in one horrifying case, an entire outpost gone silent. Its population of 20,000 simply vanished. The breach was no longer theoretical. It was here, and it was hungry. Within hours, an emergency session of the full council voted to accept human assistance against the common threat. Councillor Tashin, outvoted and outmaneuvered, had no choice but to acquiesce. Formal communications were established with Commander Mercer, and coordinates were exchanged for a rendezvous point where Council and human forces would combine their strength. As he left the Council chamber, Tashin was intercepted by Admiral Krell, whose expression was uncharacteristically troubled. "This is a mistake," Tashin hissed, his inner hearts racing with fury. "Humans cannot be trusted. This breach could be their creation, a weapon designed to force us into this very position." "Perhaps," Krell acknowledged. "But if the threat is real, and all evidence suggests it is, then we have no choice but to accept their help." The Admiral's scaled skin rippled with unease. "I've reviewed the data, Counselor. The breach is like nothing we've encountered before. It doesn't just destroy, it unmakes. Physics, biology, even consciousness itself breaks down in its presence." Tashin stared at the Admiral, seeing genuine fear in those reptilian eyes. Krell was a veteran of countless conflicts, a being who had faced death without flinching. If something had him this disturbed, "Prepare your forces," Tashin finally ordered, "but remain vigilant. When this crisis passes, if it passes, the human question will need to be addressed permanently." As Council battleships mobilized throughout their territory, humanity's hidden fleet emerged from the Persian expanse. The Valkyrie led a formation of vessels that had been hastily modified with adapted precursor technology, shield generators that emitted a specific frequency of energy designed to repel the breach's influence, and weapons that could affect the dimensional tear itself. Aboard the Valkyrie, Commander Mercer stood on the bridge, watching as the stars streaked past. Lieutenant Gray approached, datapad in hand. "Status report from Haven," he said quietly. "All civilian sectors have been secured in the deepest levels. If we fail—" "We won't fail," Mercer replied with grim determination. "We can't afford to." Gray studied his commander's face. "The Council accepted our terms remarkably quickly, almost too quickly. Fear is a powerful motivator, Lieutenant, and Counselor Tashin may be a bigot, but he's not a fool. He knows the breach is real." Mercer's eyes narrowed. "Of course, once the crisis is over, he'll likely try to renege on our agreement. Then why risk everything to help them?" Mercer turned from the view screen to face his second-in-command. "Because this isn't about the Council, Gray. It's about survival, not just humanity's, but all sentient life in the galaxy. The precursors were more advanced than any of us, and they nearly fell to this thing. We'll need every ship, every weapon, every mind working together if we're going to have a chance." The Valkyrie's communications officer interrupted their conversation. "Commander, we're receiving a transmission from the Council flagship Arbiter. Admiral Voss requests to speak with you." Mercer nodded. "Put him through." The view screen shifted to show a stern-faced Council Admiral, his uniform adorned with the insignia of the Elite Guard, the Council's most prestigious military division. "Commander Mercer," the Admiral began, his tone formal but not hostile. "My fleet has arrived at the designated coordinates. We are detecting unusual energy fluctuations consistent with your description of the breach. What are your orders?" The question held significance beyond the tactical. A Council Admiral asking a human commander for orders represented a seismic shift in the power dynamic between their species. "Deploy your vessels in formation Gamma," Mercer instructed, sending tactical data to the Arbiter. "The modified shield frequency will protect your ships from the breach's initial effects, but maintain distance until we've assessed the current state of the anomaly." Admiral Voss studied the incoming data, then nodded. Understood. My ships are moving into position now. He hesitated, then added, Commander, for what it's worth, many in the Council fleet oppose the Exiled decree. We are gratified that humanity survived. Mercer's expression remained neutral, though the Admiral's words stirred complicated emotions. Save the reconciliation for after we've closed the breach. Admiral, if we succeed, there will be time for diplomacy. And if we fail, then none of our differences will matter anymore. The combined human council fleet, over 200 vessels ranging from massive carriers to nimble corvettes, assembled at the edge of what had once been the Talaris system, where 5 planets had orbited a stable yellow star. Now, only darkness remained, a void that seemed deeper than the space around it, hungry and patient. At the center of the human contingent was the prototype warship Aegis I, its hull incorporating more precursor technology than any other vessel in the fleet. Chief Merrick had personally overseen its hasty construction, adapting the ancient schematics to human engineering capabilities. If any ship could affect the breach directly, it was the Aegis. All vessels in position, reported Captain Vaughn from her station on the Valkyrie's bridge. Council ships are maintaining formation, shields at specified frequency. Mercer nodded, his focus on the tactical display where the breach pulsed like a malevolent heart. Begin sensor sweep. I want detailed readings of the anomaly's current state. As the fleet's sensors probed the darkness, a disturbing pattern emerged. The breach wasn't simply expanding, it was reaching, extending tendrils of void-like energy toward the assembled ships. It's aware, Lieutenant Gray realized, horror creeping into his voice. It knows we're here. Before Mercer could respond, several crew members cried out, clutching their heads in sudden pain. Throughout the fleet, similar reports flooded in, beings of all species experiencing intense psychic pressure, invasive thoughts, visions of cosmic horror that defied comprehension. The shields aren't fully protecting against psychic intrusion, Admiral Caro reported, her own face contorted with effort as she fought the alien influence. It's trying to understand us, or break us. Mercer felt the pressure himself, a sensation like cold fingers probing his mind, searching for weaknesses, fears, memories it could use. With supreme effort, he forced himself to focus on the tactical situation. Deploy the Aegis, he ordered, his voice strained but determined. Activate the Nova weapon. The prototype warship moved forward, its advanced engines propelling it toward the heart of the breach. On its bridge, a crew of volunteers, humans who had lost everything in the exile, prepared to activate the most powerful weapon ever created by their species, enhanced by precursor principles they only partially understood. Nova weapon charging, came the report from the Aegis. Targeting breach epicenter. Time to full charge, 3 minutes. As the Aegis approached the darkness, the psychic assault intensified. Throughout the fleet, crew members collapsed, blood streaming from eyes and ears as the breach's alien consciousness hammered against their minds. Even the shielded command ships weren't immune. Only the strongest-willed managed to remain functional. We're losing cohesion, Admiral Voss reported from the Arbiter, his voice tight with pain. My crew can't withstand this pressure much longer. On the Valkyrie's bridge, Mercer gripped his command chair, fighting to maintain consciousness as images of cosmic horror flooded his mind. Visions of stars being devoured, entire civilizations unmade, reality itself unraveling thread by thread. The breach wasn't just a physical anomaly, it was a doorway for something ancient and utterly alien, something that viewed the galaxy as nothing more than sustenance. 2 minutes to Nova activation, came the strained report from the Aegis. Breach activity increasing, we're detecting movement within the void. The tactical display showed the darkness pulsing faster, more urgently. Tendrils of void energy reached for the Aegis, attempting to envelop it before the weapon could deploy. All ships, concentrate fire on those tendrils, Mercer ordered, his voice barely audible over the pounding in his skull. Give the Aegis the time it needs. The combined fleet opened fire, energy beams and projectiles striking the extending darkness. Where they hit, the void seemed to recoil momentarily, but the effect was minimal, like trying to fight back the tide with cupped hands. 1 minute to Nova activation, the Aegis reported, its communication now broken by static and inhuman sounds. Breach is attempting to access our systems. The Aegis began to drift off course, its engine sputtering as the void's influence corrupted its control systems. The psychic assault had evolved into a direct attack on the ship's technology, turning its own systems against the crew. They're not going to make it, Gray realized, blood trickling from his nose as he fought to remain conscious. The breach will consume them before they can activate the weapon. Mercer stared at the tactical display, at the brave ship drifting toward failure, and made the hardest decision of his career. Valkyrie to Aegis, he transmitted. Change of plans. Continue on current trajectory. We're coming to you. Before his officers could object, Mercer entered the command codes that transferred control of the Nova weapon to the Valkyrie systems. As the prototype ship continued its doomed approach, serving as a distraction, the Valkyrie broke formation and accelerated toward the heart of the breach. "Commander, what are you doing?" Admiral Caro demanded, struggling to her feet as the psychic pressure intensified with their approach. "The Nova needs to detonate within the breach itself," Mercer explained, blood now streaming from his own eyes as he fought the alien presence in his mind. "The Aegis can't get there. We can—" "It's a one-way trip," Vaughn realized, her scarred face pale but resolute. "The Valkyrie won't survive the detonation." "No," Mercer agreed. "But humanity will. The galaxy will." He turned to his crew, these people who had followed him into exile, into hiding, and now into the jaws of death itself. "Anyone who wants to evacuate, now's the time. Escape pods are standing by." Not a single crew member moved from their station. Lieutenant Gray, barely able to stand as the psychic assault battered his consciousness, managed a bloody smile. "Until the end, Commander." The Valkyrie accelerated past the stricken Aegis, diving directly into the heart of the breach. The darkness enveloped them, and reality itself seemed to warp and distort. On the bridge, control systems failed as the void's influence corrupted their technology. Crew members collapsed one by one as their minds broke under the alien psychic pressure. Mercer, through sheer force of will, remained at the command console, manually guiding the ship deeper into the breach. The Nova weapon, transferred from the Aegis, counted down its final seconds to activation. In his mind, the alien presence grew stronger, no longer just visions of horror, but a direct communication, a consciousness vast and cold, ancient beyond comprehension, curious about these tiny beings that dared to challenge it. "You cannot stop the inevitable," it seemed to say, not in words but in concepts that burned themselves into Mercer's dying brain. "All will be consumed. All will be remade in my image." With the last of his strength, Mercer activated the Nova weapon's final sequence. As consciousness faded, as the alien presence overwhelmed his mind, his final thought was not of failure or fear, but of hope. Humanity had survived exile. It would survive this too. The Nova weapon detonated at the heart of the breach, releasing energy modulated to the exact frequency the precursor data had specified. The explosion was unlike anything witnessed in the galaxy before, not just a physical detonation, but a rupture in the fabric of dimensional space itself. The combined fleet, both human and council vessels, was thrown back by the shockwave. Ships tumbled through space, systems offline, crews unconscious or disoriented. When they recovered, when sensors came back online and communication was restored, they found the breach changed. The pulsing darkness had collapsed inward, shrinking to a fraction of its former size. The psychic pressure was gone. The alien presence no longer hammering at their minds. In place of the consuming void was a small, contained anomaly, still present, still dangerous, but no longer an imminent threat to the galaxy. And the Valkyrie was gone, along with Commander Dax Mercer and his loyal crew. In the days that followed, as the combined fleet limped back to Council space, the full impact of what had occurred began to settle in. The breach had been contained, not eliminated. The precursor data had been clear that complete destruction might be impossible. But its expansion had been halted, its connection to the alien intelligence severed, or at least weakened. The cost had been enormous. Nearly half the combined fleet had been destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Thousands of lives, both human and Council, had been lost. And the Valkyrie, with Commander Mercer and his bridge crew, had made the ultimate sacrifice. A memorial service was held on Athos Prime, where once humans had been forbidden to set foot. Representatives from all Council species gathered alongside the survivors of humanity's hidden fleet to honor those who had fallen, not as separate peoples, but as citizens of a galaxy that had nearly been lost. Admiral Voss, representing the Council military, approached Lieutenant Gray, now the de facto leader of the human forces. "Your commander was a remarkable being," Voss said, genuine respect in his voice. "The Council has voted unanimously to rescind the Exiled decree. Humanity is welcomed back into galactic society, with full rights and protections." Gray nodded, his expression solemn. "And governance. Will humans have a voice in the Council that once condemned them?" "Yes," Voss confirmed. "A seat has been prepared for humanity's representative. The Council suggests that you, as Mercer's successor—" "No," Gray interrupted. "I'm a soldier, not a diplomat. Humanity will choose its own representative through proper democratic process." His eyes hardened slightly. "We've learned not to trust authority that isn't accountable to its people." Voss acknowledged this with a respectful inclination of his head. "The breach remains, Lieutenant. Contained for now, but still a threat. Our scientists believe it may take generations to develop the technology needed to close it permanently." "Then we'll work together," Gray said. "Humans, Council species, anyone who values life and freedom. That's what Mercer fought for. Not just humanity's survival, but a galaxy where cooperation replaces conflict." In the months that followed, humanity emerged fully from hiding. Haven, their hidden colony in the Persian expanse, became a center for research into precursor technology and the nature of the breach. The knowledge they had gained during their exile, advancements born of necessity and desperation, was shared with Council scientists, accelerating technological development across multiple fields. Lieutenant Arden Gray declined formal leadership, preferring to continue his military service as part of the newly formed Galactic Defense Force, a combined military organization that incorporated both human and Council vessels. Under his guidance, the precursor station in the Farron Nebula was fully explored and its technology carefully studied. When the time came for humanity to select its representative to the Galactic Council, the choice was unexpected but fitting. Captain Varric, once Mercer's harshest critic among the civilian leadership, now a staunch advocate for human rights within the greater galactic community. In his first address to the full Council, Varric spoke words that would be remembered for generations. "We come not seeking revenge for past wrongs, but partnership for future challenges. Humanity was forged in exile, tested in fire, and tempered by sacrifice. We have learned that survival alone is not enough. It is what we survive for that matters. Together, we will face whatever darkness the universe holds, and together, we will endure." And far beyond the edge of Council space, in the silent void where the Valkyrie had made its final stand, a faint pulse remained, weaker now, contained, but patient. The breach had closed, but not completely. The ancient hunger waited beyond the thin veil of reality, diminished but not destroyed. One day, it would find a way to return. And when it did, it would face not divided species fighting among themselves, but a united galaxy prepared to defend all that lived and hoped and dreamed beneath its countless stars. In the silence between those stars, the legacy of Commander Dax Mercer and the crew of the Valkyrie endured, not as a monument of stone or metal, but as the living alliance they had died to create, an alliance born of necessity, forged in crisis, but sustained by something more powerful than fear or expediency. Hope, the very thing that had kept humanity alive through 2 years of exile in the Persian expanse. The spark that had grown into a flame, and finally, into a beacon that would light the way forward for countless generations to come. Forgotten and exiled. Humans had indeed forged a hidden empire, but in the end, they had found something greater, a future worth fighting for, worth dying for, worth living for. Together,